Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Checked Before. This time, violations. Yeah, some people think this entire podcast run is a violation, but this is violations on It's All Been Checked Before. Hey, this is not a violation. This is a citation of excellence. Well, it will be when you join us at patreon.com/IABD. Become a Patreon member of not just It's All Been Checked Before, but the entire IABDpresents.com network. Get bonus stuff from us. Get to see our faces. Get the bonus episodes. And if you're not in on the It's All Been Done radio hour, you get all the bonus content there. You get stuff ahead of time. You get stuff after time. You get all the great bloopers. It's just a lot more fun. And it's easy to get on board. And we'll love you for it. You'll love us for it when you get all that extra content. You'll love all the extra content, and it will not be a violation. But this is violations on It's All Been Trekked.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. Your regular hosts are here.
This is Steven.
Keith.
Jimmy-Jerome. We're here to talk violations. Go ahead and apologize to me for making me watch this episode because I feel violated.
I just...
First impressions?
Yes, first impressions. First impression, I did not enjoy this episode any more than I did last week's. Maybe less. We'll debate it.
It's funny. At the beginning of every episode, as I'm watching and getting ready to take notes, I write down the title. Mm-hmm. And usually I just kind of do it without really thinking about it. I don't process what it's going to mean. And this is one of those where it took me maybe a third of the way through the episode before it occurred to me with the connection. It's like, oh, right, I should have expected this because violations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway.
You should have, Keith.
So how was Julian spelled?
Ullian, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this one is in the ballpark of last week. I'm not sure. I think this one might have a little more heft to it for me and some creepiness as well. But I don't know if that necessarily makes it better. And I thought there was some different kind of all those dream sequences were very disorienting. They were disorienting enough to be a little scary, but right on the edge of also being laughable. And not all of them, I should say, but and they were definitely upsetting, which I get they should be, or at least the Troy ones, of course. Yeah, overall, I thought this one was probably below replacement level. Now, I might end up liking this one better than last week, but we'll see. We shall see.
Yeah, we got to talk through it before I can decide.
Yeah. Same here.
So we start out with essentially Keiko getting a palm reading. I do want to mention this is the first and maybe only next gen episode where we get Keiko, but we don't get Miles.
Yeah.
So that was kind of nice. It was kind of nice to be like, okay, she's a character that stands on her own, and she's not just there as O'Brien's wife.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, well, didn't that feel like just a con man palm reading?
I wrote down, the first note I wrote down is, this is crossing over with Jonathan Edwards. Which I think was on the Sci-Fi Channel, if I'm not mistaken. But that was my first impression. It was like, but he was a con man too. So yeah, I had the same impression. I'm sensing you have a family member I'm sensing the letter M. Oh, that's my mom. Yes, your mom is trying. That's what is going on here. Your mom is in the memory.
Yeah. But the hallucinations of the memory has kind of lent it some credibility.
Right. It seemed to me that it made sense, his line of questioning and leading. It seemed more like a hypnotist to me. And it seemed like he was not like he could necessarily see what was going on. It was more just him guiding her through a vision of some sort. And he was making comments that indicated that he shouldn't necessarily know the exact answer of what's going on. Leading into what he can do, that seemed tame in a way. In the sense of the things that he could probably have seen or... Well, wait a minute. I'm talking myself both into and out of a few things. Let me start with my first note, which was, it seemed like these Julians would be an incredible security risk to have on board if they could just do that. It seemed essentially like, well, for like Betazoids and especially Deanna's mother, how much can she actually read? I mean, they've said before about them not being able to play cards or something, or can they really just probe somebody's head and just find whatever they want?
It seems like it.
I mean, is it only surface thoughts? Is it only through people willing to share certain things? I guess I would have liked to know more things like that.
It seems like a powerful Betazoid or Beta Z, whatever, they could go surface level, and that would be the polite thing to do, if at all, without permission. But they also had the ability to go deeper if they wanted to. They just shouldn't do it because it's not polite.
Hmm.
And of course, going as deep as they did was a thing that they had not been acceptable culturally for quite a long time.
Just to go back, it's crossing over with Jonathan Edward. He wasn't even Edwards, Edward. And it was on the Sci-Fi Channel from 2001 to 2004. So,
Yeah.
So Crusher is really charmed by the guy's intrusion in that first scene. When that guy's like, oh, I just had to read your mind because, you know, you're beautiful or whatever. And Crusher was like, oh. And I'm like, really? I don't think that's how Crusher should react.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought, and maybe this leads into one of my next notes, Crusher pushing for Picard to repress memories. I thought I did enjoy that. So maybe that was part of her reasoning, was like, I'm going to get, just how much, you're an interesting dude. How much can you do or whatever?
Yeah. Riker not wanting to share his memories in front of an audience, he says, I'm like, yeah, because it's all going to be holodeck sex stuff.
Hello, Minuet.
Minuet is not the dirty secret that Riker's keeping.
That's fair.
Right, that was something else.
Yeah.
My next note is, right before you go into the theme song, we get the sinister shot of the bad guy, which takes all mystery out of the episode entirely. Like, we know this guy's up to no good. Did we need that sinister shot? It seemed
that was awesome. Oh, I forgot.
It wasn't awesome because you could have kept us guessing about who the bad guy was in this episode. And not that would have improved it a lot, but I think it would have improved the episode a little bit if they didn't reveal him before the credits and then in the initial attack.
And maybe I was, it's very possible. I missed that second because I just saw him. I wrote down he's a jerk. And then I was like, oh, so is his son. And so, yeah.
I forgot that. Yeah, that was this shot that I wanted for the background, which was, you know,
so the son
him holding his hand in that way.
The son Jev was played by Ben Lemon, best known for the film Liar Liar, Die Hard 2, Hot Shots Part 2, as an actor. He's got 33 credits. This is his only Trek credit. No Seinfeld.
No Seinfeld, no. We almost had the hat trick because two of the other guest stars this week were on Seinfeld. So
can we go back to your question?
Yes.
About why I found this funny. I mean, it just is, first of all, just the overtness of like, twirling the mustache essentially. And you're like, it's more like, what is he up to? And I think that the mystery ended up being, it ended up being more of an investigation episode, which there are parts of that I actually enjoyed. And the point wasn't to keep you guessing about what I guess it was more about why he was doing it and what could anyone do to detect or stop him, which can sometimes be interesting.
I felt the same way, Keith, that I thought that aspect actually was interesting. And I thought when we saw the dad, was like, oh my God, it was the dad. You know, he was making it look like it was the son. And then it was like, no, it was the son making it look like it was the dad. But I wrote down who's zooming who. So I thought the mystery was decent, actually, once we got to it.
I never bought that it was the dad, and maybe that's because they showed us early on. But Tarman, played by David Sage, who this is his only Trek credit, but he was in an episode of Seinfeld, as Steven mentioned.
Yes, he was Dr. Dumbro in the wallet episode where Jerry's dad accuses him of stealing his wallet because he has to put on a gown at the doctor's office, and then he can't find his wallet. That's what they do. They stole it. And I think that's also the episode where Seinfeld does his waiting room bit, if you will.
Yeah, he doesn't have that many credits. But he is best known for The Birdcage, playing Senator Eli Jackson, and then second best known for this role, according to.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen him in a million things, but they must have all been in a concentrated time.
He's got 50 credits around the same era. Like he was in the pilot of The West Wing. He was in an episode of The Practice, episode of Jag, episode of Diagnosis Murder, a couple episodes of Lois and Clark as different characters, a couple episodes of LA Law. He's got a lot of guest spots. Quantum Leap. And we might as well talk about the third Julian. Inad was played by Eve Brenner, best known for The Great Mouse Detective. She voiced the Mouse Queen, as well as playing the old lady in the Elizabeth Banks movie, Walk of Shame. She was recently in sort of recently in that. She's still alive, according to IMDb. She's got 80 credits. She did 6 episodes of Baskets more recently. And then in Seinfeld, she was Lady in the Restaurant in the Frogger episode.
Oh, I missed her. There's one more Seinfeld in this episode.
She'll also play a different character in an episode of Voyager as well.
Huh, cool.
Surely that little bit of information about Troy not being able to read Julian's won't be important.
Don't call me Shirley. And yes, it was. Yeah, of course, because you have to sideline Deanna or else this episode doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say that she just has a little bit of trouble and then you could see her like, oh, I'm going to get him. Just give me an hour. And then the assault on her would be even more like, oh, yeah, of course they're going to take her out first. But the Deanna Riker sex dream, I told you they've been sleeping together. I know in the little sex dream, they're like, oh, nothing happened because they're going to be responsible and whatever. Mm-hmm. But if they haven't been sleeping together, they've at least come close a few times. And that scene, for me, justifies everybody's headcanon that, yeah, they still are into each other and they still want to do something.
I would have liked to have known. And I think that would have kept a lot of these things from being so disorienting. And I understand they don't want to hold your hand too much through some of these things, but it would have been nice to know what exactly was real and what wasn't. When did he start tweaking where exactly? Things like that, to see exactly how he's doing it. But
it seemed like the rape was the tweak, and up until then, it was.
I would like to think so, yes, but yeah.
Oh, don't just like to think so. There's no way Riker and Troy are still friends had he done that.
Right.
Yeah. But had Riker done that, but yeah, no, it definitely felt like a real memory. I'm pretty sure.
But let me clarify something. And no, I didn't think that he had actually raped her. I'm saying that did they even have sex then at that point or something? Did they twist it just enough to make it seem like it wasn't consensual, or did he just like leave right after that ordinarily?
I think that scene implied they did not actually have sex. Although my headcanon, they've had scenes like this where they did have sex. So
I said, I thought those were all rendered in an interesting fashion. I mean, like I said, you could borderline be like, this is hilarious, but outside the subject matter. But I thought it was something we hadn't seen before on Trek.
I really liked that we got that glimpse of Riker and Troy's relationship and how deep it still is, because I feel like we don't get enough of that development. And it really hits home their connection, even if, we talk about this not being a serial show and you don't need to know that they had a past to get this episode because they show you. But I like that they chose him instead of just making it some random guy Troy was remembering. And I like that then he became her protector / detective while she was in a coma. And that's why he had to be taken out second, because he was not going to let this stand. He was going to not rest until he found out who did this to her or what happened to her. And like I said, I'm a Troy Riker shipper from the beginning. And I really wish they did more with it sooner, but there will be payoff to the Riker Troy thing in the films, but it's, their coma. I noticed Deanna, while she's in a coma, still does her full makeup and hair. It was amazing. I feel like in modern shows, Discovery or something, they would not have had her do full makeup and hair. They would have made it a little more realistic.
I'm going to call it the coma moment, for lack of a better term, but when Riker's there, and I thought that was a nice moment of him getting emotional.
So there was another extraneous Geordi monologue in this episode where he's having a long discussion with the computer about chemicals that felt completely unnecessary because, like, the following scene, Data's like, hey, how's it going? And Geordi's like, well, I tried to talk to the computer and it didn't know anything. And like, okay. And I feel like most episodes, that's what we would have gotten, was that brief scene of, I tried to talk to the computer, they didn't find anything. Instead, we had this long, drawn-out scene that, don't get me wrong, I'm actually finally enjoying Geordi because they're writing him well in this season. Finally, after 4 seasons of writing him terribly. But it's also like that scene could have been cut from this episode. It would not have affected anything on the story. I
wrote down almost the exact opposite.
Oh, really?
The same observation, but just I liked it that they didn't cut the corners of that in the sense that they finally feel like they're trying to do something. And this is, well, all right. What I put down was I'm glad they gave detailed investigation scenes to Geordi and Crusher. We actually got to see their thought process and working through with actual technical jargon of some sort instead of saying, we just tried stuff. Because that's exactly what they normally do, is like they would say, and you go, but are you sure? Did you try this? Or how did you even think about, like, they usually leave it open for those kinds of questions. Why didn't you figure out this sooner?
I feel like that's the type of scene a true hardcore fan would enjoy, but not one that a casual viewer would enjoy.
Perhaps.
And I agree with you, Keith. I do like getting the insight into his thought process, but it was not a compelling scene. It was just him asking the computer a bunch of questions. So it would have worked better in a novel. Who was this doctor Crusher was talking to? Could have easily been Mabenga, the way his name was Dr. Martin, played by Rick
Dr.
Fitz.
Martin. Yeah, and you guys know as a huge Mabenga fan, I was very excited to see him, and he looked very familiar. He did a lot of guest spots. He is the he was in the Seinfeld episode, The Mom and Pop Store. I can't remember what his role was in it, but he is in that episode of Seinfeld. I think he might be a doctor in that.
Dentist,
that's right. It's Tim Watley Party. That's right.
He also did an episode of Lois and Clark. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Hanging with Mr. Cooper, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Sequest 2032. He will play a different character in an episode of Voyager. He's best known for, according to IMDb, a movie called Naked with Marlon Wayans, and then his roles in Next Gen and Voyager, as well as it looks like a one-off role in Modern Family.
Interesting.
A one guest spot.
And I think this is his only TNG episode, right?
Yes.
That's a bummer.
But he's got 123 credits, so it looks like he's still regularly working on shows. Yep. He's just not. He did an episode of the seminal series Joey.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that checks out.
He did a Friends, Sister, Home Improvement, Ellen. Picard and his hair. This is my fashion.
Fashion.
Oh my God.
Besides Deanna's nightgown, which of course was wonderful. But Picard,
that's one of my two fashion notes, yeah.
Picard with hair. Like, you think that was the toupee they originally tried to make him wear when they were casting him?
I almost did a cartoon-like double take rubbing my eyes. It's like, am I this tired? Are my contacts working right? Yeah.
Of all the memories they could have done for Crusher, I guess this goes to Keith's talking about filling out the characters, going back to Jack's death and having Picard with her when she went to identify the body. And they brought back Doug Wirt again to reprise his role as Jack Crusher, same actor that played him in the holodeck talking to Wesley in a previous episode. And he will do a third episode of Next Gen as Jack Crusher as well, another Wesley episode that'll be coming up, Wesley's final episode. But yeah, Family was the other one he was in, remember, with right after the Best of Both Worlds. Mm-hmm. But I appreciate the actor consistency that Jack appears 3 times in Next Gen, always played by the same actor, working actor that's in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
that they brought in.
Let's go back to Riker for a moment. Mm-hmm. His vision. How much of that actually happened? I mean, was there some crisis where he had to sacrifice someone? Did he ever even have to? Did anyone even die?
That was
what was he being tricked into?
Riker's was the one that was most unclear to me, but I have to assume it was a real memory because the other two seem to be real memories.
Yeah, but it seemed like he was being pushed into thinking that he had done something wrong when he hadn't, though. Maybe.
That's I always liked the concept or the ability of being able to tell a story with like 4 flashes like that. I always reference the movie Run Lola Run from the mid-90s. Great movie with Franca Potente. If you don't know it, check it out. But it does this thing where there's these people she passes in each of the segments of the film, and then they tell the person's story in like 4 or 5 Polaroids. And I was just like, I always love that. And it's something I try to do in my work, or I always enjoy reading, whether it's plays or whatever. And so, but here I think it's, since these are distorted, it's hard to take that kind of like, okay, so, but which is okay to just be told part of the story too, and be like, okay, like you guys are discussing here, like what is the actual story here? Mm-hmm. I also thought Riker's dream was very TAS in that there were a lot of weird super close-ups of faces and stuff like on the animated series. So
for Crushers, what was the significance of the prosthetic?
Well, I was gonna say Crusher's wig because it was nice.
Well, no, the eyepiece that Picard was wearing. I almost thought I almost thought it was like a Borg reference or something, but it seemed more like maybe a standard issue thing that they were wearing for some reason. Or
my impression or my summation was it was to heal an injury because when Jack died, he chose to rescue the other officer over Jack, and it was a disaster, and they were in the middle of emergency. And we've seen in sickbay they put things on the head sometimes, so that was my guess of what it was.
Well, I didn't know that. That was looked like thinking that is a bandage. That makes it even cooler, I think. But.
Not necessarily a bandage, but if he like got a concussion or something, that would be something to like treat it.
I mean, I'm just saying it was sort of shaped. It was filling that role of a surface contact of some sort that was doing.
Yeah, but also electronic. Which if you were just healing the skin, you could have waved that wand over it. So it must be doing something internally. But yeah, I liked Crusher's wig. It was my other note for that scene.
Yeah, both my fashion notes were Troy's evening wear. It's an amazing array. She always looks great. If you want to call this the perv segment of the podcast, go ahead. But she looked great in it, obviously. And then also Crusher's hair. I wrote Hall of Fame level.
Yeah.
I think Gates McFadden looks great all through Next Gen, but they made her look a little bit younger for the flashback, which the hair contributed to making her look younger.
Yeah.
In a pleasing way.
Yes.
So what was being distorted there? I'm wondering if I'm even detecting a pattern that's supposed to be there, as far as we know, obviously, that he twisted Deanna's memory at the beginning, and maybe he tampered with Riker's in a way to make him feel like he had done something he hadn't. And this one, was it just enough to see that her husband was dead, or did she not look at him the first time? Or I'm wondering what they were distorting there.
Good question. I'm not sure.
Maybe that was the one non-distorted, and so it was the control, whereas the others were. But yeah.
So when Crusher collapses and Data and was it Geordi find her, they summon a med team for her. There's no one else in sickbay. They can't just yell, "Hey, get in here!" You have to like tap your badge. There's always somebody in sickbay.
There should be.
They were all off duty. You know, she was just kind of burning the midnight oil. And
I mean, there's lots of doctors on the ship. Somebody's got the night shift in sickbay.
I would figure it's like a hospital. There's always somebody there.
At least one doctor and one nurse.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
When Troy woke up, I was confused by the guilty guy, the obviously guilty guy. Maybe this was meant to throw us off the scent, but Jeb being like, I'll go ahead and probe her memory and figure out what happened. I mean, I guess he took the opportunity to change her memory, but I was like, what's he offering to do? He's going to give himself away. But I guess that's why he implanted the memory of his dad.
That hadn't occurred to me that he was doing that then, but that does make sense.
It frustrated me that like, oh, Troy's nice to him, and then he's going to attack her. And that whole like, oh, I'm so sorry I have to do this because you're sweet or pretty or whatever. And but it was so satisfying to see Troy beat the crap out of him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was a great scene.
Like physically, we never get to see her butt kicking.
Yeah.
And I've always suspected she could do it, but getting to see it was great. And plus, every assault victim wants to see the victim fight back in that way. Yes. And, Marina Sirtis played a rape victim in one of the Death Wish movies in a really gruesome graphic scene. She did not fight back and kick the rapist butt in that regard.
She left it to Chuck Bronson. His line, "Why'd you have to be so nice and so beautiful?" I can't think of a creepier line to say, because even if you said that sincerely, trying to be nice, there's no way that you could pull that off. It's like, oh, that's very sweet of you. No, immediately the girl is like, block, delete, call the cops, get a restraining order.
Absolutely.
Hey, can you stay at my house tonight? Can I stay at your house? Yeah. Is this the creepiest / ickiest TNG episode?
One of them. It's certainly up there. I mean, there's probably another episode or two that aren't springing to mind right away, but it's definitely up there.
Yeah.
So a couple of things you rolled past I want to get back to for a moment before I forget.
Sure.
The thing about him implanting the memory of his father. I'm wondering if maybe they didn't do that initially just to preserve the mystery for our benefit. As far as the first attack, why wouldn't he have put his father's face there immediately if that was his plan all along? Which was my impression, that he was doing this series of attacks just to do that because he was angry at his father for belittling him, unless he was actually like a serial, violator in that sense. They did find eventually that he had done that before on other planets, in other circumstances, which is how they figure out the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Was this just some compulsion on his part, or was it a plan all along to implicate his father?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, I realized that I hadn't thought of that. I just assumed right away that this was just one plan that he had when he got there to get back at him.
I mean, I guess it makes you wonder if he's done it before and got away with it, and so this time he had to actually do a little more work to cover his tracks.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Well, they did say that he had done it before.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's how they even knew to come to the quarters. They were saying.
Yeah, that's right.
For the first assault scene, my mind immediately says this is a rape, but they never used that term like the whole episode until the end. And I was kind of surprised when the Tarman was like, yeah, this is a type of rape. And I was like, I'm glad they said it that way. I feel like it's more powerful of an impact to say it and call it out. But yeah, I was surprised they actually went there.
Yeah, I thought the ending was heavy, but not heavy-handed. I thought it was heavy. It was on point. Him using that language was like, yep, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. This episode was directed by Robert Weimer, who directed 2 previous episodes, Data's Day and Who Watches the Watchers. And then he'll direct 5 more, and then an episode DS9. Doesn't have many directing credits outside of Star Trek, just a few. It was story by Pamela Gray, T. Michael, and Sherry Goodharts. T. Michael, this is his only story by credit for Next Gen. He only has one other story by credit, though he is a producer in the reality show Little People, Big World. That is a reality show, right? From 2010? Yeah,
it sounds like it. Yeah.
Very random, it seemed to me. Also, the story by Sherry Goodharts, she wrote The Most Toys, where Data's the object in the collection, and also has a story by credit for Night Terrors, which I thought was interesting because I feel like this had some night terrors of its own a little bit. Again, not a lot of writing credits. And then Pamela Gray, who both story by and teleplay by, which she shared the teleplay by with Jerry Taylor, we've talked about. Probably why we get some of the more emotional character-driven scenes, Jerry Taylor. But Pamela Gray, this is her only writing credit for Star Trek, has 9 writing credits total on IMDb. So best known for A Walk on the Moon. She was the writer of that 1999 film that starred Viggo Mortensen, Diane Lane, Liev Schreiber.
That's a good movie. I saw that. Yeah, that's a good movie.
I don't think I have seen it, but
she wrote that. Woodstock. Yeah.
This was her first writing credit, but then she wrote that in a couple of years later. Or a few years.
That's a lot better than this episode. A lot more fun. Fun. It's dramatic, but it's fun. Liev Schreiber's in it too.
Alternate episode, I guess it just would have been fun if the aliens let them relive memories without the ulterior motives. We got to do some character development stuff.
I went with Freddy Krueger in space because he's not in their dreams, but he's in their memories. So it was a very similar kind of thing where he's haunting them. So yeah, I had one more note. I thought this was interesting, and I can't remember who said it. It's very early in the episode. Someone says, if an event is interesting enough to be recaptured, how was it ever forgotten? Which is very Freudian. I thought it was very interesting because Freud's thing for people who never remember their dreams nobody remembers all their dreams. But Freud's theory on that applied not only to dreams, but regular life, which is people don't remember the things they don't care about. So if you care about it, that's why you remember it. And if it's a dream, it's like, oh man, that's something I really care about. I remember it. So I felt like it was the same app. This is a similar roundabout way of asking the same thing. Like, well, I guess you can bury a memory that's you remember that, but I don't know. I don't know how repressed memories work, but I did like them injecting some Freud in there. So I appreciate that.
That was probably when Data was talking to Geordi.
Okay. Yeah.
So I had 2 more notes. I'll go with the more boring one first, which is I really liked when Picard was approaching every time he went to the Yulians to talk about what was going on, especially when he was going to confine them to quarters. Just I love the language and just the delivery and just there was a lot of diplomacy being demonstrated there without them saying, "Hey, Picard's a diplomat." We just actually got to see him doing it, and everyone was being very tactful, and that was nice. So the other thing, this finally made me think about, and this goes along with the what I said recently about why don't they just use technology to do certain things, or why wouldn't they have done this? And why don't they have security cameras around, or do they? Because one thing that would have, like on like the turbo lift, so I'm wondering why they didn't catch moments like these. He did several of those things, like out in the open at a 10 forward. As soon as Riker got up, that smile instantly went to that kind of So
and then when he covered his quarters in plastic wrap and was wearing the clean suit.
Yep, that also might have given him away. But just, so you think what a camera or somebody would have caught him leering at something and going like, this guy's acting really strange just now.
They probably don't check the security tapes unless they have to. And, checking Troy's quarters, are they looking at 10 forward in the turbo lift? The Enterprise D is a big ship.
But do you think that they do monitor things like that? Do you think they have cameras?
It sure seems like they don't, except on the bridge.
It would have fixed a lot of problems in a lot of episodes. They would have been short episodes.
I feel like realistically, were we to go forward in the future, we probably do have cameras on the starships in more places than that. But now we just rely on the Telosians to show us whatever scenes they want.
It's only the bridge that
from whatever angle they choose.
Right.
As Yoda said in Revenge of the Sith, if into the security tapes you go, only pain will you find. So that might be the other reason. They're just like, let's just not bother.
Let's get to the rankings. Annoyance. Who was your annoyance this week?
It's the obvious one, the bad guy. It was a little like a Law and Order
Jeff
detective show where it's like, oh, I think it's this guy. It's got to be this guy. Oh, it could be this guy. Nope, it was him.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jeff too. I just did not like him at all, period.
Well, I mean, it's probably for the best that they didn't make him likable.
They did not.
They didn't even try to make him complex. They're just like, this guy's awful and creepy.
Yeah.
All right, Keith, are you going with Jeff as well? Or
yeah. No, I mean to that subject. I mean, I'd say at the very beginning, they made him seem like he was gonna be the level-headed one.
Yeah, there was a second where it's like, oh, his dad's an a-hole. Poor guy, but
right when he was, or when Deanna was commiserating with him on the turbo lift. Right up to that point, it seemed like okay. And then, nope. Then he does this.
Who are you having a drink with?
This would not be a surprise. Dr. Martin. Because, I can't have a drink with Dr. Mabinga. I'm going to have a drink with Dr. Martin. Doc Martin, like the shoes.
Or Doc Martin, like the British medical mystery drama.
Yeah, there you go.
Starring Martin Clunes. Is it Martin Clunes? I don't know. It's a good show. I'm going to have a drink. I'm really at a loss in this. There was no character that compelled me, so I'm just going to have a drink with Crusher because I feel like she had a rough time and she needs somebody to have a drink with. And you can make the same argument for Riker or Troy, but I'm going to choose Crusher just because I like Crusher.
I'm having pretty much the same quandary as far as that goes.
Jeff?
No, probably not. I was thinking about the father, but I think that would really that whole overbearing parent thing. No, just
you could always have a drink with Keiko to talk about. Man, wasn't that crazy?
Oh right, yeah. No, that's good.
Oh, that's right.
That's a good choice.
Okay, I like Keiko. Ranking the episode after we've discussed it, I kind of want to go above hero worship. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's where I land. I think there's some more interesting elements and provocative, for lack of a better term, elements.
So above that is
I didn't give you a chance.
Sorry, Keith was nodding, so I'm taking that as an agreement from all of us.
Yeah, it's just. Well, go ahead. What's next?
Silicon Avatar is above that, and I would go above Silicon Avatar.
I suppose so.
But I didn't really like Silicon Avatar. So
yeah, I think I would too. We're getting close. So.
Above that, I think so too. Above that is A Matter of Time.
No, that was bound to come up eventually.
That was the fake time traveler. Stephen. Well, no, he was a real time traveler. He just wasn't quite what he said.
I think I like that a lot more than this.
Yeah, I'm a little bit torn, but I think below. Certainly, the episode is more enjoyable, so I'm certainly willing to go below.
As annoying as he was, that episode was probably more interesting. Yeah.
Cool. I didn't find him annoying, so yeah.
That's right. That's right.
We put this as number 10 of 12, so
Right.
It is what it is. Not terrible, but towards the bottom.
Yeah.
Next week, the Masterpiece Society, which is Ron Canada's next-gen guest spot, working together to prevent the annihilation of a perfectly balanced, isolated society with no contingency for outside visitors may, in fact, destroy it. So a society that's so balanced without outsiders that coming in to help save their planet could destroy them. That sounds a little bit interesting, and Ron Canada interests me as well. Until then, live long.
And this may not apply, but don't fall asleep and prosper.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's got the time?